Hey guys, we have got something really different on the channel today. Now, I would have posted this on a vlog channel. I've been thinking about starting a vlog channel just to share personal stuff with you guys, but we haven't set it up yet, so I'm going to share it here. Most of you know that my family and I are all big Disney nuts. We love the Disney stories and characters and stuff. So several years ago, I wrote a fairy tale book for my wife. And, you know, I share it with, it's one of my granddaughter's favorite things. This is it. It's Princess Philomena and the Troll. And it's from my wife and also my daughter, my granddaughters. But I wanted to share it with you guys today. I'm going to read it, so I know this isn't for all of you. By all means, if you're not into fairy tales, please feel free to go watch Slow Joe or PewDiePie or whatever else you like to watch on YouTube. But some of you might enjoy it. I'll put up the illustrations as I read it, and it's just something I wanted to share with you guys because it was something that was kind of cool and personal to me, and I like sharing things like that with you guys. So here we go. If you know anybody that's into fairy tales, call them in. Hit the pause button. Call them in the room. Here we go. Once upon a time, in the wonderful kingdom of Sapphire, there lived a happy, friendly community watched over by King Ulu. The good king had a beautiful daughter, Princess Philomena, and a carefree son, Prince Dougie. Princess Philomena's beauty was legendary throughout many kingdoms. Her smile could summon the sun to rise. The only downside to life in Sapphire was the large gully that bordered the kingdom for many miles. The gully was known as the Trench of No Return. It was inhabited by snakes, scorpions, and every type of evil, mean-spirited, slithering, nasty creature a person could imagine. On the other side of the gully was a beautiful meadow full of wildlife, streams, and flowers. On the far side of the meadow was Rita's Forest, a pretty, tranquil collection of trees and woodland creatures named after the forest fairy who watched over the area. For many years, people of Sapphire Kingdom had tried to imagine a way to build a bridge across the Trench of No Return so they could enjoy the meadow and the forest without having to trek many miles to the west and go through the mountains to get around the gully. Alas, there was no way to build a bridge, as the horrible gully creatures would devour anyone who dared to set foot in the trench to begin building. One day, seemingly out of nowhere, a nasty troll appeared on the side of the gully opposite Sapphire Kingdom. The large, chubby, extremely gross troll snorted and snotted a little while surveying the trench. In short order, he jumped in and began constructing a rock bridge. The evil creatures approached the troll, only to be repelled, as he was nastier and certainly more disgusting than any of them. The largest, biggest snake in the trench bit the troll, only to have the disgusting dude laugh and bite him right back. This was more than enough to convince the other creatures that the troll was someone better not trifled with. In a matter of only a couple of months, the troll had built a perfect, solid rock bridge. The people of Sapphire were thrilled to have an avenue to the meadow. The only downside to crossing the bridge, however, aside from having to come in close proximity to the disgusting troll, was that he charged a small fee for every crossing. To most all of the kingdom, this was of little consequence. They happily paid for the privilege of access to the beautiful meadow and the forest. It became quickly apparent to the kingdom that the troll was not one for small talk. He was miserable and grumpy, and for the most part giving only snotty insults or grunts in response to greetings such as "good morning." The only exception to this rule was the children of the kingdom. The troll's irritability with grown-ups was only equaled by his affection for kids. The children were not only allowed to cross the bridge for free, they would play with the troll as they crossed. They learned that his name was Curtis, and they would actually climb on him, play catch with him, and generally have a wonderful time with the nasty goblin as they traversed back and forth over his bridge. Even King Ulu himself was not spared. One day, the king and his entourage came to the bridge. They paid their toll, and King Ulu, who had a famously large nose, said, "Good morning, good troll." Curtis eyed the king for a moment, then growled, "Across the bridge with you, before I charge you double for that mountain of a nose." Everyone within earshot went silent, apprehensive over how the king would respond to this previously unheard-of snipe at his proboscis. King Ulu was truly stunned for a moment, then he broke into a smile, followed by a hearty laugh. Curtis the Troll, you are truly a man of unparalleled grumpiness, he bellowed, continuing to laugh all the way across the bridge. The only other exception to Curtis's rule of grumpiness was Princess Philomena. Even though she always had her money at the ready, Curtis the Troll never allowed her to pay. He would simply step aside and smile at her as she passed. Princess Philomena actually, inexplicably, liked Curtis the Troll. He is a gentle soul inside, she would explain to whomever would listen. No grown-up in the kingdom believed her, though. Many believed that Curtis was so miserable because his hands were always in pain. He had worked hard with his hands all his life, building and working with rocks and bricks. Even now, he was constantly cleaning, inspecting, and maintaining his bridge. The people of the kingdom would regularly see him pausing in his toil as he winced in pain from his hands before returning to his duties. Prince Dougie would get his nose very bent by the fact that his sister was allowed free passage while he was not. One day, as the princess was allowed by, Prince Dougie questioned Curtis the Troll on his policies. "Why do I have to pay when my sister does not?" he demanded of Curtis. "You don't have to pay," the troll explained. "Really? Why, thank you," Prince Dougie exulted and prepared to cross the bridge. Curtis the Troll stood firmly in Prince Dougie's path. "I said you don't have to pay. I didn't say you could cross," explained Curtis. "What?" asked Prince Dougie, very perplexed. "You always have the option of going this way," the troll detailed. He then picked up Prince Dougie and held him over the snarling evil creatures slithering in the gully. "You can take this path if you'd prefer," Curtis explained. Prince Dougie swallowed hard and began to sweat. "Actually," he thoughtfully began, your price is more than fair." After that, Prince Dougie would still gripe about the cost, but only when out of earshot of Curtis the Troll. One day, Princess Philomena approached the bridge. Once again, she reached for her money, only to have her payment waved away by Curtis. As he stepped aside to allow her to pass, Princess Philomena took a bad step and stumbled slightly. Curtis the Troll reached out to steady her. As his hands caught hers, a sudden look of shock came to his face. Princess Philomena clasped the Troll's gnarled, coarse hands and said, "Thank you, good Sir Curtis the Troll." As the princess made her way to the meadow, Curtis held his hands up for his own inspection. For the first time in many years, the pain had gone. The relief lasted only until sundown, but the moments away from the pain were like heaven to the troll. After learning of the effect her touch had had on the troll, Princess Philomena made it a point to gently clasp his hands each day as she passed over the bridge. Each day, Curtis would know relief from his pain for the remainder of the daytime hours. Princess Philomena and Curtis the Troll became the closest and unlikeliest of friends. Many days he would accompany her into the meadow. The forest creatures, who were, like everyone else, terrified of Curtis, slowly began to feel more comfortable around him as long as their friend, Princess Philomena, was there with him. The princess and the troll would share many picnic lunches together in the meadow. As they ate and enjoyed one another's company, Prince Dougie would regularly try to use the distraction to attempt to pass over the bridge for free, only to be caught and repelled by Curtis on every occasion. One particularly beautiful day, Princess Philomena and Curtis the Troll were having a picnic in the meadow when suddenly the sky turned an ominous blood red. The sound of many hoofbeats echoed over the hill and proceeded through the forest, urgently heading towards the meadow. As the first of the sinister horsemen could be seen cutting through the trees, it became apparent to both Princess Philomena and the troll what was happening. The evil kingdom of Trojan had heard news of the bridge, and they were now planning to invade and take the treasure of Sapphire. Curtis ran Princess Philomena to the bridge and told her, "Cross, now!" "Come with me," she pleaded. "Our brave men will fight them." "No," Curtis insisted. "The men of Sapphire are peaceful. They will be annihilated by the Trojans. Go now. Cross the bridge." Tears streamed down Princess Philomena's cheeks as she kissed Curtis the Troll on the cheek and reluctantly retreated back across the bridge. The entire kingdom of Sapphire stood at their end of the bridge and watched in horror as one lone troll stood arms folded, in front of his bridge, as 1,000 horsemen charged him against the backdrop of the ominous sky. The horsemen stopped en masse directly in front of Curtis the Troll. The King of Trojans sneered at the brave gargoyle. "Step aside, troll," he growled. "This kingdom is ours now." "Pay the toll," Curtis demanded. The King of Trojan was stunned for a moment, then he laughed loud and heartily. His massive troops joined in the laughter. "You really think we're going to pay you a few shillings to cross your little bridge, you stupid troll?" "Nope," Curtis responded. "Your toll is all your weapons. Drop them here." Again the army broke out in laughter. Then the king's face turned into a much more serious, menacing snarl. "Listen, you filthy, disgusting mutation. Step aside, or we will simply run you over." "Really?" Curtis asked. The troll then turned to his bridge. He very carefully sought out one specific rock in the bridge, the keystone. He smiled at the king, removed the keystone, and the entire bridge collapsed into a smoking pile of debris at the bottom of the trench of no return. The King of Trojans' eyes grew wide with rage. "No!" he cried. The king then pulled his sword from its sheath and placed the razor-sharp blade against the throat of Curtis the Troll. Princess Philomena and the entire kingdom of Sapphire shrieked in horror. "You will die for your belligerence," the king shouted. Curtis the Troll never flinched. Arms crossed and steel at his throat, he calmly said, "Go ahead and do it." His demeanor was a bit unsettling to the king. "Your life so miserable that death is of no concern to you, troll?" he asked. "Nope, life's pretty good," Curtis offered. "Then why do you show no fear of having your throat slit?" the king questioned. "Let me ask you something," Curtis began. "You ever killed a troll before?" "No, I've never yet to enjoy that pleasure," the king answered. "Well, here's the thing," Curtis explained. "When you kill a troll, immediately upon the moment of death, the troll's body will emit a noxious gas that will instantly kill everyone within 50 feet. Upon hearing that, every member of Trojan's army in close proximity to the king and the troll retreated at least 50 feet. A bit unnerved, the king looked hard at Curtis's eyes, looking for a clue as to his truthfulness. "You're bluffing," he said. "Yes, I am," Curtis answered. Now more confused, the king said, "You're trying to confuse me." "Yes, I am," Curtis again responded. Clearly flustered, the king shouted, "Stop agreeing with me!" "I can agree to that," Curtis offered. Now the King of Trojan was in a serious fix. If he were to back down to Curtis, he would have been defeated and humiliated by a lowly gargoyle. If he proceeded to cut his adversary's throat, and Curtis wasn't lying, the king would perish in a puff of gas. Thinking quickly, the king leaned down and whispered to Curtis in a tone only the two of them could hear. "Okay, troll," he began. "I have a solution to our little standoff here. You jump back into the gully. The creatures fear you and won't harm you, but I certainly could not pursue you in there. That way we can both leave with dignity." "Okay," Curtis began thoughtfully. "Here's where I finally disagree with you. You don't have any dignity to begin with. So make your call. Back down and you're a coward. Kill me and you're a dead man. Make your move." The king sat back in his saddle. He fidgeted and the sweat began running from his brow. No one on the Kingdom of Sapphire's side of the bridge could even so much as breathe. A silent tear from fell from Princess Philomena's eye as she waited. Finally, slowly and reluctantly, the King of Trojan lowered his sword and put it back in its sheath. He turned his steed and, followed by his entire army, slowly retreated back through the forest. A great roar rose from the Kingdom of Sapphire. Everyone cheered, cried, and embraced one another. They applauded their hero. Seemingly oblivious to it all, Curtis the Troll simply walked into the gully and, stone by stone, began rebuilding his bridge. The kingdom became silent as they watched him work. Every child of the kingdom lined the bank of the gully, looking to their hero and friend with eyes of pure innocence. Finally, Curtis looked up. He saw the children, and he knew what they wanted. With a simple, forceful gesture of his hand, all the creatures scurried away from the area where he was working. Every child of the Kingdom of Sapphire filed into the trench and began rebuilding the bridge with their friend. With the aid of enthusiastic young hands, the bridge was rebuilt in a matter of days. Life in Sapphire was better and more wonderful than ever. Now, even adults didn't pay a toll to cross the bridge. Well, except for Prince Dougie. Curtis still made him pay only because he knew just how crazy it made the prince. The Kingdom of Sapphire residents crossed the bridge hundreds of times a day, pausing for a few hours on a cool February morning to enjoy the wedding of Princess Philomena and Curtis the Troll, which took place right in the middle of the bridge. When it was time for the dance of the bride and groom, Curtis became uncomfortable. He whispered to his new bride that he could not keep time to music and he would look clumsy and silly. Princess Philomena smiled and instructed the minstrels to stop playing. Princess Philomena and Curtis the Troll had their first dance, and everyone that followed, to the sounds of the birds in the meadow and nothing else. From then on, Curtis the Troll monitored the bridge every day. Even though he knew that the King of Trojan had been so thoroughly humiliated he would never return, Curtis would not take any chances. He would tinker with his bridge and keep an ever-watchful eye towards the forest. Many years passed by, and every day Princess Philomena would bring a picnic lunch that she and Curtis would share in the meadow. She would gently hold and rub his grizzled hands, keeping the pain away. Finally, one morning, the Kingdom of Sapphire received word that the King of Trojan had died, and the next king in succession was a man of peace and kindness. The threat was no more. A very aged Curtis the Troll smiled when he heard the news. He sighed a deep sigh of relief and lay down in the grass next to the bridge. When Princess Philomena arrived with their picnic lunch that day, she saw a swarm of concerned children hovering over her husband as he lay in the grass. She knelt at Curtis's side and looked into his tired eyes. She smiled. She knew it was time. Princess Philomena helped Curtis the Troll to his feet. Their beautiful daughters, Princess Candace and Princess Renee, kissed their father and mother. Everyone knew what was taking place. Now King Dougie walked towards them. As he crossed the bridge, he paused and laid his toll on the bridge before continuing. He hugged his sister, then hugged Curtis. The now mighty king valiantly fought back his tears. "Shall I keep the children back 50 feet?" the king asked Curtis. The old troll managed to smile. He winked and simply said, "I made that up." Princess Philomena led Curtis the Troll into the meadow. Surrounded by the beautiful meadow animals, they danced to no music at all. Slowly, a very thick fog rolled in. Soon it completely encompassed Princess Philomena and Curtis the Troll. As the fog was whisked away by the breeze, they were gone. King Dougie, his beautiful nieces, and all the children of the Kingdom of Sapphire returned across the bridge, where they indeed all lived happily ever after.